Disco baby, drive you crazy. Look into my eyes, drifting further through the night, and in the starlight you tell.
Hi, we are Venus and the Stars. I'm Venus, the singer of the band, the person that writes the songs, and I'm a pretty chill person with pronouns of they, them, and I work at Cafe Nero's right now. For now.
Hi, I'm Dyl. I'm the bass player of Venus and the Stars and the one who comes up with all the funky bass lines. I'm probably more chill than Venus claims to be, and I also work at Cafe Nero, yet heavily outrank Venus.
I'm very chill, fuck off.
And what is Venus and the Stars?
So Venus and the Stars is a disco pop band. We draw inspirations from like the 70s, 80s, as well as like modern disco pop. It's just full of fun, queer energy, and just like a really nice project.
Definitely something people can and enjoy dancing to. I mean, a lot of people, when they come to our gigs, they're like singing along to our songs. I think they're very catchy, get stuck in people's heads, which is kind of what we want, I suppose.
And on that same note, a lot of the sort of music in the queer punk scene, in the queer scene at the moment in Manchester is very punky. Is there a reason for the sort of disco departure from that you guys put forward?
So, I mean, from my perspective, I love the fact that like queer people can express their anger and rage at the system and systems oppressing them. But for me, my kind of voice is found within pop music. It's what I primarily listen to. It's how a lot of messaging comes to me, and my whole aim is to kind of embed these almost darker themes and sadder ideals in pop music to be played on the radio. So then if someone's learning about, you know, queer theory, they're accidentally doing it via a pop song.
Yeah, I think it's nice for people in the queer community to have something different to listen to. Obviously, queer punk is incredible. There are some incredible bands out there. But I think it's always nice to have a little bit of a change, and I think that's what we want to achieve.
And is that reflected in the music that you guys listen to outside of your own projects as well?
Yeah, I listen to a lot of 70s, 80s stuff. Biggest influence for me is John Taylor from Duran Duran, bass player in there. I also love like a bunch of 70s stuff, ABBA, Chic. I've always drawn my bass, at least, inspiration from that, and I like that we can do that in Venus and the Stars.
Yeah, I mean, I've been a fan of like Bananarama, Whitney Houston, those kind of like pop icons, as well as like Taylor Swift, Dodie, Carly Rae Jepsen, definitely, and Janelle Monáe. So like for me, it's a little bit more varied on the pop scene. It's not necessarily like 80s pop disco sounding music, other than like Carly and Dua Lipa. But it's something I still really enjoy, and I feel like it's very present in my music while being original and authentic.
And V especially, you talk about the musical influence on your music, sort of Broadway, West End musicals. Is that reflected in the way you present yourself on stage? Because you know being very sort of flamboyant, wearing very sort of outgoing clothing. Is that all part of that influence?
It fully is all part of that influence. For me, I want people to come to see a Venus and the Stars show, not just a thing that we're playing or a thing that we're putting on. They're coming to see a show. They're coming for an experience. Like right now, we're trying quotations around that, trying to get a light box. So in one of our performances, I can step on the light box and just have a light peering up, because it's just theatrical and it's fun. Like, I want people to come to our shows and just have fun and remember it.
And is that sort of something you want to keep kind of DIY going forward, the theatrics of it, or do you think eventually you'd want to sort of step up the game a bit and get more and more intense with what you were doing on stage?
I mean, for me, I always want more. It's like kind of my thing. I'm always looking for like more from our performances and more from what we can do. Obviously, right now it is very DIY, and that's fine. But I mean, if we ever get invited to play at to play at an awards ceremony, I'm gonna rinse them for all they're worth. I want a fucking show out of it. Like, am I allowed to swear?
Yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah, we're not your grandma.
I mean,
We could be.
Matt.
Oh, wink.
But yeah, it's just like right now I love keeping it DIY, but I definitely feel for like the more we grow, the more that we go out into the scene, like the more I do want to rely on bigger and better things.
I mean, it's like when we were prepping for the headline gig, we spent probably about an hour in B&M's and just looking for everything that we could add. We had flowers on the mics, we had fairy lights, we had these. I had a great idea to get these light up inflatable balls, and I didn't realize they had like little, you know, the little light things that you see in, you know, like kids' toys and stuff, and the flashing ones. I didn't realize how heavy they'd be, and I think a few people got quite heavily donked on the head by them, which wasn't the intention. It was just meant to look cool, but probably think more about that next time.
I really insulted the audience on that night, actually. I remembered.
How so?
So it was coming to the end of the show, and I was just having like a little speaking bit, and someone like absolutely slammed the ball into the stage, and like I dead ass turned to them, and I was just like, shall I fucking wait for you?
And Dyl, does this reflect in how Venus is in the studio as well? Because we've heard stories of them being sort of a bit of a slave driver in the studio.
Venus in the studio is hilariously chaotic. Venus does tend to. Venus gets a little stressed out sometimes. Even this, including in rehearsals as well. Like Venus is very much a perfectionist, but Venus has never made us, you know, feel bad about ourselves. It's never anything about that. But it's just if there is, you know, something that Venus isn't like, very vocal about it.
Very.
And I guess another point, I want to talk about the new single, Disco Baby. But before that, I guess the other thing I wanted to talk about was you've spoken about how you want to make your music quite palatable and how you want to be able to put it on the radio and people kind of take it in and listen to it and get more of a message from it subsequently. Could you talk a bit more about that for us?
About like wanting it out there and getting it outwards. I mean, I feel like for me it's mainly the people I grew up with, you know, like the person that got me into wanting to be a singer, a songwriter was like Carly Rae Jepsen, and because I heard her on the radio, but with that, like I love her to bits, but her music is very samey. It's very much romance and love, and you don't hear like queer stories on the radio. And for me, that's a big part of it. Like, I want to be popular. I want to have thousands upon thousands, if not millions of listeners per song, because I want to tell queer stories to queer kids and younger generations of queer people that didn't have that while they were growing up, to let them feel a bit more seen, a little bit more safe.
And I suppose another one, just throw in there, because it would have such a mass appeal, do you think that it would be relatable only to people in the queer community, or do you think anyone can take a message from what you're saying? Definitely
anyone. At one of our gigs, we had like this bi cis woman, and she, so the song was about like transitioning and body dysmorphia and how that affects you as a trans person, but she took her own view from that, and she ended up crying at one of the songs because it was really indicative of how she viewed her own body, especially in like regards to something she was insecure about. And like, you know, it was really nice to see that even though I wrote it about, you know, being trans, anyone could take something from that.
I think a lot of people have their own interpretations of different songs that aren't necessarily the original intention. But I mean, a lot of our songs have massively like underlying themes of not fitting in, and I feel like that can be, you know, a lot of people can relate to that.
That's a great answer, to be honest. And then moving on to the new single, Disco Baby. I suppose, first of all, when's it coming out and what's it about?
It's coming out the 25th of August, and the song is about something quite sad. I mean, it sounds a very happy-go-lucky song. It's very poppy. I mean, you've heard it. You've had the privilege.
And we loved it.
So it's about a relationship that you keep falling back into, even though it's non-beneficial to your health and well-being. The first verse is very much like, you don't notice, you don't care. It's very much the ideals of, I can clearly see you don't care about me. The first chorus comes around. The second verse is a bit more, oh, well, it's fine. We're having fun. It doesn't matter. It's fine for me. The chorus comes around again. And then when we go into that bridge and final chorus, it's a bit more deluded, almost. It's like, this is fine. This is fine. I'm fine. That's what you're meant to kind of get on a second listen.
I mean, I feel like with the song as well, because it's such a, it's quite a sad message, but it's conveyed in such a happy tone. And that can kind of be interpreted in itself as about, it's like when you're kind of miserable in a relationship and that it's not good for you, but, you're happy about it anyway because it feels like, oh, this is the best it's going to get.
And is that something that you two have drawn upon influences to kind of put across that sort of dualistic meaning behind a song? I mean, Dyl, you were talking about 70s and 80s influences, songs like 99 Red Balloons, where the beat is really happy, but the subject matter is really dark. And V, things like Carly Rae Jepsen, where there can be some quite upsetting undertones to the music. Is that stuff that you take an influence from in Disco Baby?
I would say so, yeah. I mean, like I said, with 99 Red Balloons, yeah, it is obviously one of those songs. One band I've always listened to as well, is not 70s or 80s, but 21 Pilots. They're incredible for doing that. Like, pretty much every song, it's even referenced in one of their songs. Can't remember which one it is, the top of my head, but they even referenced, like, it's a sad song, but it's, masked in a happy tone.
I mean, yeah, the same goes for me. It's like listening to Carly, Kylie, Whitney, and then also like Dodie and Ola Gartland. Like those, like they're very different. They've got their really, really happy tones and really, really fun pop, and then you have these really dark songs about some really serious themes. And I feel like in my brain I've kind of amalgamated the two together, but also I do draw a lot off of 80s and 70s disco, and disco in itself is something that has a serious subject matter but is conveyed in a happy way. A lot of the time disco was used to convey like problems of like race, ethnicity and LGBTQ rights, and it was seen as a safe space because those people felt heard and seen by the disco scene until it was burnt down in the late 70s.
And what was the recording process like for this track?
Annoying.
It was a little bit all over the place. I think there was one time we got it all recorded and then all the files disappeared, and then we re-recorded it again, and then there was this big gap in between it being recorded and then it being sent off for mixing and mastering, which was done by my partner.
In fairness, that is because I just was not happy with the vocals. I think when we got it recorded the second time, I redid the vocals at least 6 or 7 times from scratch because I wasn't happy enough.
I redid the bass a few times as well, like once we got the song over.
Yeah. But it's done, and it's great.
And I suppose being a perfectionist, it's on brand really that you would record it twice. Even if you had to lose it once, you went back and recorded it again. So really, I'd like to wrap up the interview a bit here now, but is there anything you'd like to plug? Is there anything in the future coming up? Are there any socials that you'd like to talk about? Go ham.
So obviously with Venus and the Stars, our single Disco Baby is coming out on the 25th of August, and you can pre-save it now, or when this comes out, I guess it's out now. And our socials are Venus_and_the_stars on pretty much everything. I'll let you take over now.
That's on Instagram. Facebook is just Venus and the Stars. TikTok is Vats_band. I think that's all we currently have. I am setting up a YouTube thing. But Disco Baby will be released everywhere. Spotify, Apple Music, Deezer. I don't know if anybody uses Deezer anymore, but it's there. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for the interview.
Thank you for having us on.
Thank you for having us.
And yeah, anyone out there, make sure you look out for the YouTube channel launching. Be there on the 25th. It's a great track. You can't miss it. This has been Cyanotype. I've been Matt, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye bye.